Arcane? Well, we have a special treat for you. For those of you who arrived a little bit early, you know who it is already, so it's all good. But it is my distinct pleasure to welcome to the stage the one, the only Professor Mick Wingert!
Very well done, everyone. Very well done. You never know that you've already done it at least once before. Very nicely done. As I was saying earlier, before I jumped the gun a bit, I am so excited to talk about Arcane. I'm a fan of the show as well as being a cast member. I'm so honored to be a part of this final project that we call Arcane. When I say it's a watershed show for generations, like, I am not blowing smoke. It is going to change the game. This is, in my opinion, the way that they storytell in Arcane is the closest we're going to get, or we have gotten, I should say, the closest we have gotten in the US to programming animation for adults the way Japan does. It is an adventure, it's a drama, there's romance, there's tension, there's all these adult themes, drug abuse, violence, classism, governance, politics, all of these things that are so rife in this storytelling that transcends League of Legends. And I think that one of the things I'm most proud about being a part of is that cultural leap forward for us as people who appreciate animation and appreciate the art that goes into an animated show, both as from the voice actor, but also from the artists. I mean, Prestige, their work is unbelievable. The character design, the design of both the Undercity of Zon and the Overcity of Piltover, it's just astounding. So let's hear it for Arcane. It's an incredible show. I came a little late to the dance on the production of it, and it was one of those roles that, as a voice actor, you get from an agent. You know, we all have talent agents that we hire to get us opportunities to audition and act, and it was one of those roles that just came out of the booth, and I was so astounded when I booked it. I remember looking at the sides and going, I think I know what they're going for here, but it looks like they're going a little deeper than what they did on the game, and it was a lot deeper. It was so much deeper, and I booked it again like it was just an open audition thing, and I got a call back, and then I worked with David Lyerly and his crew. That's the voice director and casting director of the show, and worked with the writers, Christian and Alex, and they were both so committed to the truth and the honesty of these characters that they're the ones to thank for this incredible show. They pulled it off without any stops and just did a great job. So, what I'd like to do here for this class is open it up to student inquiry. If you have a question about anything in regards to the wonderful City of Progress or the unfortunately still developing Undercity, if it is within my knowledge, I will share that with you. If you want to know some of the behind the scenes, what it was like to be at the callback process or that kind of thing, I'm happy to answer questions for you. I certainly can monologue about how great a show Arcane is, but I'd love to hear from you. And I know that, as I said earlier, if you don't know this already, it's because you're living under a rock or you haven't been anywhere. They have announced a season 2. I would actually love to hear from some of you what you are hoping for in season 2. What plot lines, what story development, what character choices you are looking forward to see. I can neither confirm or deny any of these things. So please know that my blanket answer is, that sounds interesting. And it doesn't mean anything more than that, because what I do know, I can't talk about, and I don't know that much. So, but we can talk about what I am allowed to talk about. So shall we? Show of hands, anybody got a question about Arcane, about Heimerdinger?
What was your favorite line?
Oh, gosh. Oh, favorite line. Here's the great thing. The writers loved Heimerdinger. In fact, I kept getting reassured. They're like, Mick, don't worry, you've got a job, because Christian loves putting Heimerdinger in this thing. And he is so committed to keeping Heimerdinger in this show. I mean, this was the beginning, right? But you're like, yeah, you got to know he's one of Christian's favorite characters. So they love him, and so they gave him some great lines. And I think my favorite, oh gosh, there's so many good moments, because I got to have some really meaningful moments, and then I got to have some moments where Heimer was, just having an eye-opening moment. And gosh, just pick one, Winger. Let me think.
Take your time.
I think that one of my favorite moments to play is the tender moment I have with Victor when I realize that Victor is not long for this world, and I tell him some of the brightest students burn out the fastest.
Because it's so true. And Heimerdinger is one of those characters they write with perspective. The reason that he's against the use of magic and science together is because he's lived through a Holocaust. And so he does have this perspective, and so to be 300 years old and watch his students come and go, I can only imagine how they must feel. Especially somebody as brilliant as Victor. So I think that's probably my favorite moment. My favorite line in terms of how it ended up staged is probably when he's patting Jace on the back and then throws open the balcony's doors on Progress Day and says, "People love a grand reveal." That's definitely one of my go-to Heimerdinger moments. And if you've bought anything from me on Streamily, if you've gotten any of my signed Heimer prints, you might have gotten that line written on your stuff, because I just think it's just so. I just love it. I love that little thing. But again, I gave you two. Can I narrow it to two? Because they love Heimerdinger. Next, we got more questions.
Yeah, so my question is, what was the voiceover process like? Did everyone record in the same room like some shows do, or did everyone submit it individually?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because things are so up in the air right now, especially post-COVID, but we recorded this. Here's the dirty little secret, and I know that this is streaming, so I'm probably gonna get in so much trouble for this, but we recorded this a couple of years ago, and the release date, I believe, was pushed because of the pandemic. But hopefully I'm not getting in trouble by saying that. But we were recording during the era before pre-pandemic, so we could have been in the same room, and we weren't, unfortunately. And I think it's because there's so many working television and on-camera actors in it that to schedule them all together in the same room to play scene work is really tough. But here's what I will say. The performances that you hear in the show from everyone from, Powder to Professor Heimerdinger to, Jace, Victor, we all had the top tier casting and directing people working with us in the booth. Sometimes actually they would, the director would come into the room, into the recording room, and just quietly play the scene with you so as to get the most reality. I'm gonna tell one of JB Blanc's stories. Won't be the first, won't be the last. Sorry, JB, I'm stealing your thunder. But JB Blanc, who plays Vander, he tells a story about how he came in for a session and they had just recorded Mia Jenna Sinclair, who plays Powder, and they had just gotten the final scene of the first act from Powder when she has her break from Bot. Spoiler alert for those of you who have not watched episode 3. Spoiler alert, there's a break that happens. I'll just call it that. But JB's coming in, he's like, "Oh, right, I'm ready to do my thing. Ready to do the thing." they're like, JB, we just had Mia in. Do you want to hear what she did? He's like, oh yeah, I'm always love to hear that. That's great. Let's do it. They push play on the playback and they play her breakdown. And he's like, I have to follow that. Are you serious? And that is the quality of performance that they went for. So even though we did not get to act in the same room at the same time, the whole creative team was absolutely on point and on focus to try to create the reality of that scene in that room at the time. When I was doing Heimer, my own story here, and it's shorter than JB's, is that like David Lyerly, who is the voice director and the casting director, we'd do the take and he'd go, that was good, let's get another one. And like, can you feel more of what Heimer's going through in this moment? Is just trying to put this thing together and trying to figure out how best to advise these guys. And he was just walking me through the emotional choices if he wasn't hearing them already. And they just got take after take, and none of them felt wasted. I mean, obviously you can only use one take in the show, right, per line, but none of it felt wasted because it all felt like acting process. That's how committed they were, at least from an actor's perspective. My experience was unbelievable to go in there and get to really act and not just go, okay, give me line 23 ABC when you're ready. Okay, go. And you go, I said I was going to the store. I said I was going to the store. I said I was going to the store. Good, that was great. Can you give us 3 more? And this time, can you pitch up on store? I said I was going to the store. I said I was going to the store. I said I was going to the store. And like, so often our job becomes that, which I'll talk about more in my panel tomorrow, inside the voice acting industry. But in this, it really was like actors' processes. The things that actors love. Oh, make it about me. Let me just emote. Just focus on me and let me do my thing, and I'm a star. And it was awesome. It was really awesome for us as performers to get into the reality. And you and I, watching the show, get to be the beneficiary of that work. That they took the time to not just go, okay, give me 3 in a row on line 93, please. So that's super cool. Of course.
Hi.
Hi.
So, 2 questions. Did you have to study the lore of the actual game of League of Legends? Did you have to play? Did you play the games? And then second question, did you have to work with Dennis Collins at all, the voice actor of Heimerdinger in the game itself?
Those are great questions. Joe, can you repeat those just in case people didn't hear?
The question is, did you play League of Legends before voicing, and did you work with the previous video game voice actor?
Dennis Collins, you said? Yeah. I did not. This was an audition that came in from out of the blue. That it was not required for us to study the lore. What's great about the show, as it turned out, is that there are lots of Easter eggs and lots of stuff for people who are fans of the existing lore, of the existing franchise, the IP. They bent over themselves to make sure that fans knew that they were thinking of them as they were making the show. And for those of us who were unfamiliar with the property, it was really important that, or not important, but it was also allowed for us to bring our own sensibility to the characters as they popped off the page. So here's the thing. I did not work with David Collins. Not because I didn't respect his work or because I was doing something different, but there's a couple of things going on there. Number one, while I didn't work with him, I absolutely, before I turned in my audition, before I even recorded my audition, I went back and listened to clips from the game. Because they said explicitly on the packet of the script that they sent for the audition, is what we call them the sides. They said specifically on the sides, we're not looking for a voice match. We are not looking for them. Because I think if they were, they would have just gotten David. I think they have a great relationship with him, and I think, he does great work as Heimerdinger. But I did know, having done voice match work in the past, I don't know what. Somebody says I sound like Jack Black, so I don't know, sometimes I do Panda every once in a while. And it's just this little gig I've had from time to time. But but having done voice match work, I know how important it is for the character to feel seamless. It should feel like the same character. Whether you're playing him in a game, or watching him in the first film, or seeing him in the second film, or it's the third episode, or it's, you know, the talking plush toy, it should feel like the same character. So I absolutely paid David the respect of watching his work and taking notes on what makes Heimerdinger Heimerdinger. And the other thing, that was the first part. Then the second part is one of the things that they really wanted to go for, and in this style was to emulate high-end, you know, high-end drama, top shelf drama. It just happens to be animated, and for that they were looking for a different acting style than one usually plays for video games. And in video games, because I've done them, I've done some of them. I have done all video. Having done some of these video games, there's two totally different acting styles. You might have call-out lines that happen in the middle of battle. How many of you play a video game? A video game. Any video game. Yeah, okay. So if you played a game and you're playing a character who's in the middle of something and you're moving your character around the screen, that character has a line when they pick up a health pack, or when they see a friend, or when they, you know, reloading. Thank you, reloading. Exactly. Those are call-outs, and that's a totally different acting style because it needs to feel like it could be prompted by whatever event is happening. It's not specific to a character. Where you get character-specific dialogue is when you get in your cutscenes and your drama stuff, and that's all the pre-staged, you know, scene play stuff that they go for. And I think for League of Legends, because it's a massive multiplayer battle arena, like I'm convinced, because I know some of the folks who were Jinx and Vi, and who else do I know in that cast? A couple of the other legends that are in the cast, definitely Jinx and Vi, and they have wonderful performances, and they are beloved by fans like you and folks at Riot Games. And Riot Games was going for something totally different with Arcane. We didn't want it to feel like the call-out lines from a video game. I saw somebody put together the trailer for Arcane when it was first released, and I saw that it had, they did a fan version where they cut in audio of call-out lines from the game when Vi was on the screen, when Jinx was on the screen, when Jace was on the screen, when Victor was on the screen, and it just didn't. I mean, it was great. It was a wonderful fan piece in terms of honoring the performances from the game and the characters that this fan had come to love. And you could tell that acting-wise, it just didn't fit with the animation. It was just a different style. And that I think is the biggest reason why, in establishing the characters, they really wanted to come from a fresh, you know what I'm saying, like a fresh canvas with people that they were convinced could carry the roles. They almost didn't have Heimer in the show at all, believe it or not. But it's true, I know. But they did. And the reason why was they weren't sure that they were going to be able to get an actor who could do the oral vocalization and still not sound like a cartoon character. And it was a huge high compliment that I was able to book this role, because it told me, like, he had so much heart when you played him that we just knew you were the right guy. And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, you're incredible. But they were really worried. They were really worried that
Having someone who talked like this, he would just sound like a cartoon character and always sound like this.
right? They were worried that their high-end drama was going to sound like, you know, an old Warner Brothers cartoon. But they loved the character. They wanted to put him in there, so they were taking that risk. And thankfully, we were able to collaborate and pull it off. I think. Thank you for that question. Awesome question. What's next? Who's next?
Do you happen to know how the animation itself was created, or the process that they went through?
Do I know the process that they went through?
For the animation.
For the animation. No, I don't know. I don't know the specific details to Arcane, but what I can tell you is that that from my work in animation, there is a universal process that all animation goes through, and that goes from pre-visualization, where they do character design and all that kind of stuff, character design, vehicle design, environment. This is where they employ artists to come up with concept art. From that pre-visualization, it then goes to writing, and that writing process can be so long, especially for a project like Arcane. I was on a live stream, and I'm saying it this way because I do not want to get in legal trouble. I was on a live stream with 2 other actors from Arcane that Streamily had produced for us to do, and it was being hosted by Cartoon Universe, so blame them. But both of the actors who were in the live stream with me said on camera for the audience that this, for them, this show was like a 6-year process, because they were involved in the original version of a pilot that went all the way to like premiere stage, was premiered for an audience, and then the powers that be said, this is good, but it's not good enough. This is good, but it needs more. So for Arcane, the animation process, pre-viz, writing, that writing took a long time. They then put the writing through the pipeline. It gets storyboarded. You get a shot-for-shot storyboard of what everything's going to look like. Sometimes that's happening as the voice actors are recording. So sometimes we record with the visual storyboard as a reference, so we can see like the shot where, you know, the coin's going to flip up in the air, and we're going to there's an arrow saying the camera's going to go up and over like that and follow the coin or whatever. And after storyboarding, it then goes to animatic, and animatic is that process in which they do pencil sketches of all the action to get the fluidity of motion, to get the sense of scene, to get the build of the tension, to get the storytelling without full render. And then from animatic, once those are all approved and locked in, and those are all locked into the voice actors' performances, then they get rendered for first render, second render, tech, lighting, and everybody kind of layers their job right on top. So I don't know if this answers your question or not, but that is the process of animation in general. So when you see the final product, you're looking at the work of hundreds of people across multiple studios. All the people who recorded the voices, all the artists who drew the concept art and character design, all the artists who then took that character design and made it consistent from image to image. All the artists who then took that consistent character art and animated it and made it move. And then all the artists who then colored it, painted it, whether digitally or by hand. It's the same basic process, though the skills are different. Like, they had to do their work, and then somebody had to come through with their computer programs and do a lighting pass and make sure everything is lit the way it's supposed to look and color correct. And it's really such a complicated process. I'm kind of getting tired of this talk. I hope that answers your question, but that is generally the process.
Hi. So you talk a lot about how you got into the mentality and the process of, like, the thought process of the professor. I'm wondering if, as a long-lived species, did the professor see, like, the steps that were leading towards him being ousted from the council, or was he blindsided?
That's a great question. I love character questions like that. I don't want to sound like a broken record, because I don't want every question's a great question, first of all. But that is a really good question, and it is something I love to talk about. I think Heimer was so entrenched in the council and so entrenched in his life that he didn't contend for that possibility that he could ever have been ousted. I don't think he's a brilliant mind, but he's not very savvy. We see in the show how in the musician, the opera scene, when all the wheeling and dealing is happening in the back, Heimer's just happily watching a concert. He is so smart and so oblivious sometimes to what's going on around him. And as an actor, I chose to play it as an innocence to it, because I felt like it fit with the character, but there were some times also as an actor that I go, I wonder if he was closing his eyes to it and just going, you know,
There are certain things we live with that we just have to live with, right? There are just ways the world works, Mahole.
because he does have sort of that sentiment to him as well, even as he accepts Victor's diagnosis and Victor's statement that he's not long for this world, but he just kind of accepts it, and he's lived so long that he's seen so many people come and go, that I wonder if, and I don't want to speak for the writers, they're the ones who would be able to tell you what's going through Heimer's mind, but as an actor, I chose to play it as he was oblivious because he couldn't conceive of this being necessary. And I wondered at times, you know, should I play this as though he's choosing to turn a blind eye? And I think the way that it played out, the innocence worked better because, again, you see that scene in the opera house, and it's clear that he has no idea what's going on. He is just happily watching a concert. And there are backroom deals and trades and negotiations and politics going on back there, and it's crazy. So I would say that, you know, the short answer is I think he's oblivious because he can't conceive that in his beautiful city of progress that would be possible. That anyone would try to oust him, or that there would be any kind of subterfuge happening.
It's just not the way built order works, my dear.
So, of course. Ooh, more questions! Yay! More questions!
So I know that sometimes with the animation process, because sometimes animation and voice acting, it doesn't always happen concordantly. Sometimes the physical, the acting decisions of the voice actors, movement-wise, how they're sort of standing, those hands waving, that gets incorporated into the scenes. Did that end up happening with you? Are there any of your favorites for that?
Yes, I stood on my knees the whole time. No, I will say, I will say yes, that there were they shot film every time we were in the booth. I say film. I don't think anybody uses film anymore, but they kept video of us at all times for reference pick, for our acting choices. I don't know that I recognized any of my physical movements as they ended up on the screen.
That's the thing on. Sorry.
I didn't see any of my physical choices personally, but I know that they used my face as a reference, and I know that they used my acting choices to help inform the character. And I know that that's true of the other actors as well. Hopefully, maybe if we're lucky, they'll release some of that behind the scenes footage of the stuff that they captured of us. We'll see. But I know that they took it, and I know that they were using it in the animation process for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Specifically referencing the wolf scene with the scientist at the end of the last episode.
Okay. I'm sorry, what?
Any theories about the wolf scene at the end of the last episode?
Any theories about the wolf scene? Nothing that I can confirm or deny. I don't. I can't say plot-wise anything that's going to happen, but I do know that that there's a certain league champion that is very, very popular. That is a wolf, and that. And I can also tell you that if you're watching carefully enough, you'll see that Vander's street name is Wolf. So that's his street handle. So that's all I can say.
This is just a really quick aside of something I can't unsee, so I've been flipping on everyone in this room. The pictures look like Heimerdinger.
100%. I keep looking at them. We're being watched by the professor himself. Is everybody getting this? It's incredible. Well played, Zenkaikon. Well played. Thank you for that.
Hi.
Hi.
If you could do any impression of any other Arcane character, who would it be?
Silco, hands down. Silco, hands down. What's that?
Would you in double test?
Sure. Don't cry. Don't cry. You're perfect. Copyright 2022, Jason Spizak. Listen, Jason Spizak nailed that performance. Would you agree? Silco is the bad daddy we all needed. And he's a horrible, horrible person who throws people under the bus for his own agenda. He tells you in a monologue, he tells you that power only comes to those who will do anything to achieve it. He's horrible. And there is something that he gives James that every parent should give a child. And that is that blanket acceptance. And that blanket affirmation that regardless of life choices, you're perfectly made. And you're my kid. So, why wouldn't I want to play Silco? I mean, I have to give it, I mean, my version is obviously just a dime store impression of Jason's original performance, but it's because I remember when the sides came through, and they were so gorgeous, the sides that came through with a water monologue. What they said around was, do you know what it feels like to drop? And so good, and he does it so well. I'm jealous. I want to play everybody! All right. Next question.
I wanted to ask, since you're obviously a big fan of the show,
Yeah.
was there any moment during production where you realized, wow, this is something special?
Oh my gosh. What'd you say? Oh, the question is, as a fan of the show, was there any moment that I watched that I thought, wow, I'm part of something special? And I want to say it was episode 3, and that it hit me. I think I was already stupefied, like the opening scene on the bridge, right? In the middle of that first war, that first rebellion uprising, the first Undercity uprising, and then the transition into modern times. My character wasn't even in episode 1 that you saw, or that I saw. So, like, I mean, he was there, he was a presence in the city, but he wasn't on screen. And I knew it was special just as it was going through, like when the kids are parkouring over the rooftops in Piltover, and then the lab blows and all that stuff. But it really hit me on episode 3. And honestly, it was the performance of Mia, Janice, and Claire as Powder. When she gets left behind, and Powder has that breakdown, and the way that they animated her face, and the performance Mia gave of being abandoned at home, even before the big break moment, like even just the feeling of being a kid who's been abandoned alone, and it being so raw and so visceral, and like her spit flying out while she's crying, and just like she's snotty and teary and ugly crying, and I'm like, you don't see this in other shows. This is something special. This is absolutely something special. And then just to watch it develop from there on. I will also say, the first time I saw the opening credits gave me goosebumps. With the statues and Imagine Dragons playing in the background, like, oh my gosh. I was like, what is this? I was in this? That's amazing! So, those are my goosebump moments, for sure.
I have two questions. One, were there any like really funny blooper moments that you care to share? And two, how do you feel hearing your own voice on screen?
Oh gosh. Those are, oh my gosh, these are hard questions. Why do you gotta ask the hard ones? In terms of blooper moments, I certainly had multiple takes on a lot of different lines, but there was nothing that really was a funny blooper, unfortunately. Though I would actually relish having like one of those moments where like break into laughing fits and you can't stop. All that blooper reel footage that they show from like Marvel movies and stuff would be awesome. So the short answer is, not that I can recall, not that's memorable. There's certainly a lot of lines where I was like,
Jace, take the hex to, oh shit, what am I saying? Let's do again, let's do another one. Oh, Jace, make sure the hex gates of, retirement.
That's about as close as I got, so. And then what was the second question?
How do you feel hearing your own voice?
Oh, hearing my own voice, yeah. I've had to get used to hearing my own voice. And something I've learned actually, as a voice acting teacher and coach, almost every student I've ever worked with has hated the sound of their own voice when it's recorded. And the reason for that is you don't hear your own voice the same way the rest of the world does. So that when you hear a recording of, say, you and one other person talking, the other person always sounds exactly like they sound. But you sound so different. Oh, I hate that. It's so unnerving. You know why? Because what you're hearing of your voice is the sound of the voice echoing and bouncing around in your skull. You're hearing the inside perspective of your own voice. The voice you hear on tape is what everyone else is hearing. And that takes getting used to. Not only is it naturally unnerving to us because it feels familiar, but it's different. So we're like, that's not right. I don't, what? Is that me? But also, we get super self-conscious and start picking ourselves apart. I have had to learn how, as a person, to start watching my own stuff and going, okay, I don't hate the sound of that. Now let's talk about the acting. That's maybe another question. But I can at least hear the sound of my own voice and go, okay, I can accept that that is Mick Wingert and that he belongs there, and that's okay. But it took me a while. It really took me a while. I just did not be able to watch things that I was in. I never wanted to see tape of anything. I never wanted to see, broadcast debut. Or if I did see something, I'd be like, oh my gosh, Kari Wellborn sounds so great as Tigress, and I sound so stupid as Bo. I'm so dumb. And I wasn't dumb. I wasn't stupid. Everybody was like, oh my god, is that Jack Black? That's amazing. And I'm like, oh no, I hear it. It's so different. And I had to get over that, right? I had to let me be me and be okay with that. And that's a process. I would say I'm still in that process. I think all of us are in that process. But I'm better at it now. I can watch Arcane and watch my performance in it and not go, oh, I would have done that different. Or, oh, I hate that voice. What is it doing? Oh, it's me. I can just watch it and go, let me watch the interplay of the characters, and let me see what Heimer says to Jace, and what Jace is doing in response, and how Heimer interacts with Victor and with the council, and not be self-conscious. It's a good place to be, and I hope for all of us that we can all get there and continue to grow that way, just accepting who we are and what we sound like. Next question.
I swear.
You've had your hand up, Jeff.
Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to share one of my fan theories, I guess you could say. You already kind of didn't confirm one of them, but the other one is, I just wanted to kind of jog everyone's minds here, draw attention to, I believe it's episode 1, with the whole experimenting with Singe. I hope we see potentially a rat in the next. I'm just saying, it kind of lines up and the lore is there. Also, I would like to see, personally, an expansion into the whole Demacia Noxus take on magic, because of Demasia's ways, specifically Garen and that cast of characters, being so the way that they are. And I know that a lot of people hate Lux. I'm kind of a Lux hater, not gonna lie. I made Blitzcrank, so it's only fair. But I would love to see how that is expanded upon, potentially in season 2, and if not, maybe tidbit towards maybe season 3. That's all.
Here's what I'll say, and I feel confident saying this: they have a wide world to draw upon. They have a wide world to draw upon, and I don't know much of the game lore, but I do know that Noxus is a thing, and I know that at least by name we have not seen any elements of that, and Noxus is a very big part of League of Legends lore. So if they don't explore it, I think it would be the exception rather than the rule. Like, I don't know, you could be onto something. But that's honestly all I know about it.
What did you like least about working on Arcane?
Nothing. No. There is something I didn't like as much. It got better with the pandemic because of the at-home orders, but the drive. They were locked into working with two very, very good studios, either in like they both the same company, Formosa Interactive. One of their studios was in West Los Angeles. One of them was in like Santa Monica, which is even western Los Angeles. And I lived in like far east Los Angeles. So I had to drive. That's the stupidest answer ever. I'm sorry, guys. But that's what I like least. I mean, playing the character was phenomenal. And getting to be a part of this thing has been, as I've said before, is amazing. But it was a nasty drive. And thank God I had audiobooks because I was about to rip my hair out. And I'd have to come back and like get into Skit Center and get in character and be like, screw the 405, it's fine, we're good, it's okay. And I know that they have a close relationship with Formosa. Riot has a close relationship with Formosa, and that's why they did their recording there. And the engineers were great, and the staff was great, and everybody treated me wonderfully as I came into the studio to do my stuff, but that drive was awful. One reason never to be a voice actor, Los Angeles.
I think this was gonna happen. Okay, I don't. So I'm a firm believer that Powder's actions are justified.
Okay.
I was wondering where you stand on Powder's actions.
Which actions? You mean, sorry, Jackie. She's like back and forth and back.
So, as you touched upon that Powder was abandoned, and I truly believe that she was abandoned, do you think that it was justified that she wanted her own path after breaking away from the person that like gave her a new home? And it's something big in the end.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and here's what I would say. I've been that age. You've been that age. Most of us in the room have been that age. I believe it's 11 or 12. So unless there's younger than 11 or 12 in here, I think we've all been that age. And whether or not it's justified from a social perspective, in her mind, she was doing exactly the right thing. In her mind, there was no other course of action. She's 11. The one person she could count on. First of all, one of the people that she could count on is now dead. And she knows that she had a hand in it. And then the other person that has always been her go-to has just slapped her in the face and walked off. What is she going to do? She's 11 years old. Her mind isn't capable of rational, well, she's just having an emotional moment, I should probably wait and just let her blow off steam. She owes me an apology. She's 11, she's 10, however old she is. So is it justified? In her mind, 100%. I can't think of an 11-year-old coming up with another course of action, except maybe running after her sister. But the break was so powerful that I think I don't think that's realistic. As an outside observer, do I think it's justified that she chooses what she chooses? I don't think that's the right question. I think the right question is, what else could she do? Where was she gonna go? Right? She can't fend for herself. She's a jinx. So, of course, when she gets treated with kindness, even at the hands of Silco, of course she's gonna respond to that. She's just gone through one of the biggest traumas in her life. So there you go. That's my theory. And I'm sticking to it.
So, were there any lines that you ended up, I know like with the voice acting, sometimes lines will go, like, you'll modify them slightly, or just like you feel you voice them differently, or say not exactly what's on script. Was there anything that you remember kind of putting your own spin on it all?
Oh yeah, they were very free with the script. With us, they wanted to get moments rather than words, as it were. I mean, the writers wrote the words, they want to hear them played back for them in the performance, but if we sacrificed some phrasing, I can't speak for all of us, I'm sorry, I shouldn't do that. I should say, if I wanted to go off book a little bit, if I wanted to tweak some phrasing, the creatives were like, yes, go for it. If you feel like that's more Heimerdinger in the moment, and sorry, I'm going through puberty again. If that's what they want to do, then you can do it. Gosh, I wish there was a watershed moment that I can think of. I want to say that the really important moments for Heimer, like when he stands up at the council and he says magic is not going to be used here. I've seen what it's done before. None of you know what that's like. They really wanted to try to get that as on script as possible without any actor changes to it because they had worded it so specifically. But I mean, like when the boys are floating around because they finally discover hex tech. I want to say that like the "Would you please stop levitating" moment was I want to claim credit for that. Maybe not as a writer, but definitely as the actor. I'm like, I know how to play this. This is that, and they gave us the freedom. They gave me the freedom, I should say, to have the comic moment and play it any way that we want, right? So just coming in and being a part of the collaboration like that, I wish I had a specific for you, but that's the closest I've got is that moment where he discovers them and as they're breaking down the door and having that nice comic moment of, "Would you please stop levitating? You're in so much trouble," you know. It was really, that felt very collaborative. I felt like I could put myself in that as an actor, and I wasn't tied down to the line itself. That's the best I got, sorry. But I hope that answered your question. How are we on time? 10? All right. Yeah.
So you said that there's a long time between the time that you finished recording to the time that it came out.
Yeah.
At what point did you get to see the final production before it came out on Netflix? And how did that feel, having not being able to say anything to anybody?
Oh my gosh. Both of those questions are excellent. The first one I'm going to answer very quickly. They showed me nothing, those bastards. They're not bastards, they're awesome people. The second, even without seeing it, knowing that this was going to be a pretty cool show and what they were going for, even though I hadn't had my goosebumps moments yet, where I was like, oh shit, this is really a big deal. I knew it was going to be a big property. And so sitting on that was so hard. Because I wanted to like scream it from the rafters, especially as soon as and here's the other thing, is that they would make announcements that Arcane was coming. Netflix announced that they were going to be the distributor, and all along the way, they had these little, announcements that were coming out piece by piece before the show dropped. And every time they made an announcement, I got a letter from my agent saying, from Riot. And they said, here, this just came in for you from Riot via email, take a look at it. And to a T, every single one of them said the same thing. We know you're excited about being in Arcane, and we want the cast reveal to be very, very secret right now. Do not say anything about your involvement. You've seen a trailer online. If you're not in the trailer and named by name, please do not announce your. We want it to be special for the fans, yada yada. And I'm like, I just want to say I'm in this thing. I just want to say I'm in this thing. And I couldn't. Every time they release another little snippet for the audience at home, and you get a little more information, you know, Ella Purnell or oh gosh, what's the actress's name who plays Vi? Help me guys. Haley Steinfeld, yes, thank you. Haley Steinfeld, you know, Kevin Alejandro. Some of these main characters, and the rest of us are going, and nothing. Okay, yes, all right, I'm gonna sit on it a little bit longer because Ryan wants me to. So that was a nail biter for sure.
What was the biggest challenge coming to Heimerdinger, either from a character perspective or from a technical perspective?
Ooh, that was really good. The biggest challenge, for those who didn't hear, what's the biggest challenge of playing Heimerdinger from a technical perspective or from a character? I'm going to go from character. And that is, we all have different moments in our life. We all have lived through ups and downs. We've all had things that we would classify as trauma and whatnot. But I personally have never lived through a Holocaust. I personally have not seen hundreds of people wiped out at a time, thousands of people wiped out at a time. Heimerdinger has. And bringing the reality of that to the moment where he's trying to shut down magic at the council, I mean, I know that it's a moment that happens like in episode 2, it happens early, it happens fairly quickly, and we move on with the story. But for me, that was the seminal moment that was definitive Heimerdinger. That was him at his most personal and his most raw, of him standing up and being the person. The only thing that I had in my brain to reference was somebody else's experience who maybe had lived through the Jewish Holocaust. And I just kept picturing Heimer as somebody who survived Auschwitz, standing up and saying, we can't allow this here. We can't allow this. You don't know what it will do. I'm the only one who knows how bad this is. And I personally, thankfully, have never had to live through anything like that. But Heimer has, and that was really hard. It was hard to bring that truth and to make it feel as real as it needed to be for him in that moment, having not lived through it myself. To try to conjure the strength it would take to face what you had seen, the terrors that you'd seen in the past, and to be able to face them in public and say, I've seen it before, I don't want to see it again, and we're not having this happen. And for me, that was the hardest moment, but it was the definitive moment for me. That was who Heimer was for me. And yes, he's a scientist, and yes, he does all these other things, but every time he would advise caution or slowness or take a back step, guys, it was because he had lived through a concentration camp. He had seen what had happened. And again, that's my own personal canon there, but that's what it took for me to get to that place and make it real. Like, if it had just been, if he had just been casually saying,
oh no, that's dangerous, I don't know what to do, so let's just avoid it all.
It would have been a totally different character and a totally different vibe. That was definitely the most challenging, just getting to that place.
What was your favorite moment that didn't include your character?
My favorite moment, what?
That didn't include your character.
That did not include my character, oh my gosh. Favorite moment that did not include my character. There's so many good ones. I love when Vi's taking Caitlin through the brothel. Yeah, that's a good one. I love, gosh, just about any scene with Silco in it, but specifically when he takes down the Kemp Barons. I already talked about how I love Powder's breakdowns in episode 3. I think Mia Jenna Sinclair, I'm not a stalker, I promise, but I think she's a young actress, she's in her mid-teens right now, and she's gonna go very far if she continues to be an actor. Keep an eye on that girl's career. It's only gonna skyrocket. I think I really liked the stuff with Victor. One of the scenes that came through in auditions and that I loved watching when it was finally actualized on screen was the I hope I'm not interrupting anything as Jace is about to throw himself off a building. That was such a great scene and it was so well played and it was exactly like I pictured it when I got the audition sides. And it was a great moment. Those are some of my favorites. 4 minutes. One last question.
If you could choose your own member of the council, who would it be?
If I could choose my own member of the council, who would it be? Vander. 100%. The thing that was wrong with the council is the council was governing people they didn't represent. Or they were representing people they didn't know. That's the better. They were governing people they didn't know. They were governing people and passing laws for folks that they were completely out of touch with. I don't know about you, but I could never see that happening in real life. Never. And I think the one person that could have, or Silco for that matter. I know Silco's ruthless. And he was a visionary, as was Vander, which is what brought them together and then tore them apart. They both had a vision for what the nation of Zon could be and what the Undercity was, and who these people were that they lived among. And that's what was missing from the council. Not only was the council corrupt and doing, political payoffs and all that kind of stuff, but to be governing a place that you don't even realize what impact your decisions have was the great flaw in the council. And I think that if somebody had presented that to the professor, he would have been all for, let's have representatives from the Undercity on the council. Because that's just good governance, and that's just good perspective and politics. That's just humility. But that was the problem, right? He was a founding father of Piltover. It was the city of progress. Everybody just kind of had this ignore the ugly stuff. We're just going to keep moving forward kind of mindset, and that's what made the council the wreck that it was. Because nobody was looking. Nobody was looking at what they were doing. But Vander or Silco, I would immediately put on that council. And then, maybe Caitlin, because she's fun.
Yeah! All right, guys, thanks for coming out. Now, what am I
Thank you, everybody.
Autograph session at 5:30 today over in Telus. You can get autographs. We have some fantastic 8x10s and a holographic certain professor that is available as well. So guys, come out and see us at 5:30 and tell us.
Thank you, everybody.